Hi folks, I wanted to take a moment here and talk about aphantasia. So this is a term that is recently coined by Dr. Adam Zeman in the UK, making its round on the BBC and IFL Science and places like that. Though it's been recognized since about 1880, and I kind of want to give a layman's term for this. Um, in that, what is aphantasia? Do you have aphantasia? And by contrast, what is hyperphantasia? Alright, so aphantasia, simply enough, is more or less the inability or near inability to picture anything in your head. Alright, there's no mind's eye for people with aphantasia, myself included. That means if you ask me to close my eyes and picture something, I see the back of my eyelids. That's it. By contrast, hyperphantasia are people who are able to basically create photorealistic imagery in their head and even manipulate it. A historical figure who anecdotally was hyperphantasic would have been Nikola Tesla, who built his designs and kept them in his head. He actively constructed these things. So there's been a lot of questions, and a lot of people coming out of the woodwork saying, holy smokes, this is me. And right now it's estimated 2 to 3% of the population. Most of it's believed to be congenital. There's some research out there that indicates that you could end up with trauma-induced aphantasia as well. First off, some people wonder, how do we think? Well, really extensive inner monologue. Matter of fact, I'd probably say that aphantasics are probably fairly verbose people, and I imagine, and this is speculation of course, there's still a lot more research that needs to go into this. Individuals who probably have fairly extensive vocabularies, always looking for the right word to describe the right thing, because we don't have a mental image of this in which to draw from. Other questions we have frequently is, do we have an imagination? Well, technically speaking, by the definition of the word, root word image, right, looking at it, we don't. But in the more connotative use of the word, we do. There are many creative individuals. We can conceive of things. We can contemplate things. It just happens to be that we do it a little differently than people who can visualize. A counterpoint to this by someone on the Aphantasia forums, which I shall hopefully include a link to here, was, how do adolescent young men who can visualize ever leave their room? So, I said this before in my blog and other things, really we are aliens to each other. The way the human mind can, a functional human mind can be put together is absolutely astounding. For example, through just polling research on forums and stuff recently, a lot of us with aphantasia also don't have an ability or much of an ability to manipulate imagine smells, to imagine sounds. In particular, a lot of us, when we hear music in our heads, it's our voice doing the instruments. It's our voice singing the songs. When you see that little meme going around, that asks you to read something in Morgan Freeman's voice, we can mimic the cadence, but it's not Morgan Freeman's voice for a lot of us. So there seems to be some comorbidity in regards to this. So, it's interesting. So you can think of it as, we think in an inner monologue. That doesn't mean we're not creative. As a matter of fact, we're very good at scripting. We're very good at describing things on average. We have to be. If we want to remember something, we can't take a mental snapshot. We have to describe it. We have to use our words. And we're good with words, apparently. Other questions is, do we dream? This has been a lot of variability on the forums amongst us. Some of us seem to dream quite vividly. Some of us seem to, really not dream at all. Some dream in black, but they still know what's going on. They've got impressions and feelings and other notions about what's happening. And as part of dreaming, the amygdala does seem to play a role as well, which is going to be slightly different than our visual cortex. So that's going to come down to more interesting and unique wiring. A lot of people have kind of asked or even inferred that this is a disability of some sort, and I want to tackle that as well. it's not a disability, it's neurological difference. Um, you know, we have to approach things slightly differently than the average person. When somebody says, picture this, we might be a little prone to eye rolling. Okay, geez, thanks, you know. But once again, it's just neurological difference. I mean, we are perfectly normal, functional human beings. As a matter of fact, a lot of people even have trouble wrapping their brains around one side of this or the other. It's hard to comprehend. For me, somebody who can create a picture in their head, that is something I have no experience with. I have no context for being able to do that. And for people who are highly visual in nature and use a lot of pictures in their heads, um, you know, I imagine it's like it becomes part of your creative process. It becomes part of your thought process. So thinking about that, really makes us seem sort of aliens to each other. That, we still regard each other and interact with each other as human beings, and yet our brains can be wired in drastically different ways. And we've been discussing on the forums and stuff of late what are some of the potential advantages even to aphantasia. Some of us, like myself, who have real and multiple and repeat trauma in their background and in their childhood, we seem to be a pretty resilient bunch. I can't relive those moments. I can't relive assault. I can't relive molestation, and I'm sorry for any triggers here. Um, you know, a girlfriend convulsing in an attempted suicide, things. I cannot smell it. I cannot see it. I cannot hear it. That memory is really just a verbal monologue and some feelings associated with the situation. Looking at things from the point of trauma, which is something important to me as somebody also on the spectrum, and the challenges, the autism spectrum, and the challenges that we face, especially as children, for being different. I imagine if I could have visualized, I would have checked out a long time ago. I would have retreated into a fabricated world to escape the reality around me. And these are things that deserve more weight and more research. But, as with any inherent sort of neurotype, the way your brain is wired to function, how you take in, store, utilize, and manipulate data, there's always pros and cons. And this is part of human difference and even part of our personalities. My personality is influenced by the fact that I cannot visualize. A matter of fact, a lot of other people on the forums, as we're beginning to really learn more about each other and attack this rigorously, I'm the odd one out because I'm not a photo hound. Most of them so far seem to really be big into photographs and photographic memories and things like that. Then again, I'm a really cerebral guy. I just like thinking. My inner monologue doesn't stop. I have a very hard time shutting off my brain at night. So, aphantasia, not a disability. Neurological difference. As a matter of fact, there are many aphantasics who are in media arts and artistic endeavors and manipulating things. Matter of fact, some of them even think that their inability to visualize is what helped push them to learn to do some of their artistic endeavors. To realize before them something they can't realize in their head that people who can visualize would very naturally take for granted. Just kind of like a lot of us, we sometimes self-identify when we're younger, and some of us are just learning about it. When you hear somebody say, picture this or that, we think they're just being figurative, not literal. It's like, wow, wait, people can actually do that? That's fascinating. How's that work? I even have one friend who's not the most particularly visual person in the world, apparently, who's having a really hard time wrapping his brain around the fact that some people can actually create and utilize pictures in their head. It's quite shocking. To connect this back to some of my autism-related work, Dr. Temple Grandin even breaks up autism spectrum into 3 categories based upon their ability to visualize in their head. So you have the words only, that's me. You have the people in the middle, she calls the pattern thinkers. Then you have the picture thinkers, that's her. Very, very different neurology going on there. And yet, we are still human, and it's fascinating. So I'm going to try to include some links. If you're interested in aphantasia, you think you are aphantasic, swing by our Facebook page or swing by the recently created website, aphant.asia, and join the conversation. If you're a researcher and a graduate student who's interested in the subject matter, we are a very open, very welcoming community. We want to learn more. So stop on by, pay us a visit, and ask questions, because it's exciting times. Thank you all.